Following the outcome of the recently concluded general election, the People's Democratic Party has been thrown into crisis and confusion. The party lost presidential election in the southeast and south-south regions, once considered its stronghold due to a number of factors, including the role played by the G5 governors led by Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike. The governors urged their people to vote against the PDP, which saw the party losing states like Rivers and the others. The National Working Committee of the PDP has now suspended some of its prominent members for engaging in anti-party activities. They include former governor of Ekiti State, Fayose, former Senate President Fayose, and among others. In a new twist, the national chairman of the People's Democratic Party, Senator Iyorchia Ayu, has been suspended by the Benue State chapter of the party for also engaging in anti-party activities. So we're talking about all of these on the program now. Joining us to discuss this is a PDP Chieftain, Segun Sowunmi. It's nice to have you join me this morning.
It's nice to be here. Good morning.
Great, welcome. All right, at the course of the program, other guests, Biodun, will be joining us as well. But let's kickstart this way. Now, Segun, you have been in the PDP for a long time.
Forever.
And you understand the ins and the outs of the party, the ups and the downs of the party. I recall I had you on the program after the 2015 election. We analyzed what the challenges were and how PDP can come out. So you've been on ground. Now, the 2023 election, one would expect that in the build-up, all of the things that happened, this time will be used to reconcile and all of that, because now, as much as some issues are still in court, but one way or the other, the election has come and gone. But how would the party, put its house together, call everybody in, and let us see for a reconciliation and so on? But that's not what we're seeing in the PDP. We're seeing suspensions upon suspension, which is widening the gap that we were thinking was going to close.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Thank you for reminding me about our 2015.
Yeah, of course.
You will recall at that time I had said that a political party that loses the general election, which we lost to the Buhari presidency, that it must understand that its responsibility is not to think that it has to win every election. That it must action itself, organize itself in such a way that it can be a strong platform in office if they win, and a strong platform in case they don't win. Because occasionally parties will lose. You see, they didn't learn from that. I added something we had a review at that time. And I remember that myself and my friends were at that review, and I was to represent the younger ones, so they called us then. And I said, you cannot reform a party with the consciousness with which you caused the trouble. It's exactly where we are now. To say that I am utterly disappointed in all of this suspension glee that is going on is to put it mildly. It is sheer irresponsibility on the part of the leadership of the party, and Iyorchia Ayu and then have to hold themselves responsible here, because they are the chief accounting officer of the party in an ESCO function. They should know for a fact that we can't have the kind of outcome we had in the 2023 election, which, in my opinion, we lost by ourselves. APC does not have the capacity to beat us because of internal crisis. Okay, that has happened. We're struggling in court. What's the next thing to do? You can't go on a frolic of trying to suspend people that you already know their position. If you're suspending Fayose, are you pretending like you don't know that there's a G5 that has a dramatically opposed position? And then when you go and do that, what exactly are you expecting? You're expecting those people that have that position to be quiet. Now they've gone on to suspend you. So I'll just say that you cannot solve a problem with the consciousness you created it. In the first instance, it is a failing of the NWC for them to imagine that across board, there's so much problem within the party at state levels, at different levels, that they couldn't reconcile, they couldn't solve one. Everybody is fixated on the G5. There are problems in other states that they didn't even bother to solve. And, one gets the impression that the PDP keeps holding its breath, thinking that it doesn't have to reform itself, it doesn't have to improve itself, it doesn't have to review its own laws and its operational manual until the next election, and that they will just get by, We didn't get by in 2019. We have not gotten by again in 2023. And instead of us to accept that, okay, we need to stop digging now. We need to tell everybody, okay, guys, there's enough sin to go around. Can we all just come back to the table now and determine for ourselves what we want to do with this party, even if not for you, the ones that have been governors, this, that, for the others that are coming and the teaming young people. Why don't you just calm down for a second and begin a rapprochement to bring everybody back? How are you going to do that if the next thing you're doing is slamming them? Okay, you have said you suspended Fayose. As far as you look like a person that really gives 2F about what you're saying, then you've added Shema to it, adding more problems to us in the north. Then you've added our former Senate President, Ayu, to it. Then you've added, and now they've added Ayu to it. So where does it stop? Now, if you see a political party as a test of will, of strong forces, you have to understand that actions have consequences. So I would just say, we need to pull ourselves back from the brink. We need to call a stakeholder meeting to review precisely why and how did we get ourselves into this mess. I remember there was a meeting that was called in that same NWC and in our office, and they were trying to get ready for the election. I said there, I said we have two problems on our hand we have to solve. We can pretend, we can agonize, we can sidestep, we can arrogantly think it will work. We have an OB problem, and suddenly an OB problem is biting us in the ass now. I said we have a wicked problem. And I was trying to say to us that it's no longer possible for us to see Governor Wike as just one governor. The mere fact that he's able to have about 5 or 6 tendencies within the party to really follow him, and a lot of states that don't have governors like Cross Rivers and Kano to follow him, has already given us a territorial problem. And you can't just wish it away. We have seen the result. Okay, we're in the tribunal. Like we're going to go and like produce, magic there. Or we're going to say that we don't understand how difficult it is to prove election cases, given the limited number of time you even have to call witnesses, given the position of INEC, who is not going to be cooperative with you, so to speak, and given the fact that the people that you're challenging are going to come with their own lawyers and their own argument to say, could we not have avoided all this? In the last couple of years, APC has got us into a mess of us not even being able to find money. They ran a policy on their own that has made everybody in the country uncomfortable. We couldn't punish them. They ran the longest, strike that affected university students staying at home. We couldn't punish them. They had the longest fuel queue, no petrol, no whatever in this country. We couldn't punish them. All the indicators say that they are not doing well on unemployment, national stability is bad. We couldn't punish them. And when you look at why we couldn't punish them, you will just put it down to the mismanagement of the party by those that had the responsibility. And if Iyorchia Ayu is the chairman now, he can't escape from the responsibility of how the hell did we even get to a place where we couldn't even reason with ourselves, we couldn't bring ourselves to the table. And you have to juxtapose us to our rivals. When the APC was going to do their primaries, by all intents and purposes, I actually thought that they were going to implode because too many people were buying the form, strong people were buying the form, the conversation was, very heated. They were running a pre-primary campaign as though it was a general election. And lo and behold, somebody became their candidate. And it was almost magical. You really didn't hear anybody, ventilating too angry. Some people were angry. You have somebody in Rivers like Amici who's a little bit, not so. But you saw that they understood that you can't be playing politics of losing an election with your personal heart. And none of them was going out of their way to make their party lose. How did the PDP, the oldest, most consistent political party that had 16 years in power, we still have about 13 governors or thereabout until some of them started jumping. How did they become a party that don't get the message that, okay, personal crisis on one side, election and trying to lose election on one side, and we are trying to teach them with our own conduct. I have my issues with them in Ogun. But when it was crunch time, I didn't allow the whole thing to go to blow up in our faces. I got into the field. I ran very hard. I stood by the party. We got what we could get. And we're now so convinced that we want that election, that because of the margin of lead, rule. And the people who are supposed to know better think that the best thing for them to do now, while we're even trying to figure out how to do it, do the tribunal, the best thing for them to do is to put us in the news for all of the wrong reason. When you were suspending all these guys, what were you really expecting? You were expecting them to listen to your suspension and then just go home. Now they've gone to simulate a suspension for you. Does it even make sense that we're saying that the national chairman of our party is suspended from his ward? So I want to just beg them, if you have had your field day with this party, in the interest of democracy and participatory party democracy, can you just all just go and let some of us come and rebuild this party and get other people? And one other thing, the PDP needs to understand very clearly, the word on the streets about this last election is not a reflection of the fact that people are thinking PDP has been cheated. If there be any anger, it is the anger of young people, maybe misplaced, maybe not misplaced, I don't know. But the anger that you see is about maybe people did not win, not about us. People don't have a lot of sympathy for the fact that we didn't do well. And the other we smell the coffee and calm down and start looking at how to rebuild this party, the better for us. Because at the end of the day, if everybody were to ship out of PDP and run into the party that they claim has won the presidential election now, we're just going to go there and implode it. And it will not even resemble the party anymore. So for the general interest of democracy, multi-party democracy, political parties must learn to be stable. And in building stability, you can throw the books at people. But before you throw the books at your big, so to speak, players, you better measure to be sure that they don't have enough reason or enough grounds to be this angry. So I would just say, Mr. Chairman, no. Reverse these things, bring everybody back to the table, and let's start building for the future.